Ever wonder where all the energy you have comes from? The energy to think, to move, to laugh, even to breathe. You might think it's from the food you eat or the sleep you get, and you're partly right. But the real heroes of your energy story are microscopic powerhouses hiding inside almost every single one of your cells. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of mitochondria, the unsung champions that keep you going every second of every day. So, what exactly are mitochondria? Picture them as tiny, bustling power plants. They're present in what we call eukaryotic cells, which is a fancy term for the types of cells that make up animals, plants, fungi, and you. Not every cell has the same number of these power plants. A relaxed, less active cell might just have a few hundred, but a cell that's constantly working, like a muscle cell in your leg when you're running, or a neuron in your brain firing off signals, can be packed with thousands of them. The more energy a cell needs, the more mitochondria it has. It's a simple, elegant system of supply and demand happening on a microscopic scale. One of the most incredible things about mitochondria is that they can multiply. If a cell suddenly needs more energy, its mitochondria don't wait for instructions from the cell's main command center, the nucleus. They can divide on their own through a process called fission. It's like one power plant splitting into two, doubling its output capacity. This self-replicating ability is a key reason our bodies can adapt to different energy demands, like when you start a new exercise routine and gradually feel stronger. Your muscles are literally building more power plants to keep up. Let's zoom in and take a closer look at the structure of a single mitochondrion. Imagine a tiny, cylindrical or rod-shaped capsule. This capsule is enclosed by not one, but two membranes, kind of like a tiny thermos. There's an outer membrane and an inner membrane, and they each have very different, very important jobs. The outer membrane is the first layer. It's relatively smooth and surprisingly porous. Think of it like a sieve or a colander. It's studded with special proteins called porins, which act like open gateways. These porins allow all sorts of small molecules to pass freely from the main part of the cell, the cytoplasm, into the space between the two membranes. It's the welcome lobby of the power plant, letting in the raw materials needed for energy production. Now, if the outer membrane is the open lobby, the inner membrane is the high-security control room. It's much more selective about what it lets through. This inner membrane is not smooth. It's intricately folded into a series of twists and turns, which are called cristae. Why all the folds? It's a brilliant piece of biological engineering. Folding the membrane dramatically increases its surface area. More surface area means more space to pack in all the important machinery needed for making energy. It's like building a factory with countless winding corridors and rooms instead of just one big empty hall. You can fit a lot more workers and equipment inside. And what's on the surface of these folds? These cristae are studded with tiny, granular structures that look like little lollipops. These are called FOF1 particles, but their real job title is ATPs. 50s. Remember that name, ATP. ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, is the universal energy currency of the cell. It's the final, spendable form of energy that powers everything your body does. And these ATP synthase particles are the machines that churn it out. Alongside these ATP-making machines, the inner membrane is also packed with other protein complexes. These work together like a bucket brigade in what's known as the electron transport chain. We won't get too deep into the chemistry today, but essentially, they pass high-energy electrons down a line, releasing energy in a controlled way at each step. This controlled release of energy is what ultimately powers the ATP synthase machines to produce that precious ATP. It's a highly efficient and coordinated assembly line. These two membranes, the outer and the inner, create two distinct compartments within the mitochondria. The first is that space we mentioned earlier, the intermembrane space. It's the narrow region between the outer and inner membranes. Because the outer membrane is so porous, the chemical environment here is very similar to the main part of the cell. The second, and arguably more important compartment, is the mitochondrial matrix. This is the very core of the mitochondrion, enclosed by the intricately folded inner membrane. The matrix isn't empty. It's a dense, jelly-like substance, like a thick soup. And what's in this soup is what makes mitochondria truly special and a little bit weird. Inside the mitochondrial matrix, we find a treasure trove of components. There's a small, circular piece of DNA. That's right, mitochondria have their own DNA, completely separate from the main DNA stored in the cell's nucleus. This mitochondrial DNA contains the blueprints for some of the essential proteins the mitochondrion needs to function. Along with its own DNA, the matrix also contains all the different types of RNA and its own ribosomes. Ribosomes are the cell's protein-building factories, and the ribosomes found in mitochondria are a specific type called 7-O-S ribosomes, which are interestingly very similar to the ribosomes found in bacteria. This is a huge clue to the evolutionary origin of mitochondria, which we'll touch on in a bit. The matrix is also chock full of various enzymes. These enzymes catalyze the early stages of cellular respiration, breaking down molecules from food to release their energy. This is where the fuel, derived from sugars and fats, is processed and prepared before being handed off to the electron transport chain on the inner membrane. So let's put it all together. The presence of its own DNA, RNA, ribosomes and enzymes means that a mitochondrion has its own genetic system. It's semi-autonomous. It can read its own genetic blueprints and build some of its own proteins using its own machinery. While it still relies on the cell's nucleus for many of its components, it has a degree of independence that is unique among cellular organelles. It's not just a passive structure. It's a dynamic, self-replicating, protein-synthesizing partner living inside our cells. This leads us to a mind-blowing theory called the endosymbiotic theory. Scientists believe that billions of years ago, mitochondria were actually free-living bacteria. At some point, a larger, primitive cell engulfed one of these energy-producing bacteria. But instead of digesting it, the two formed a mutually beneficial relationship, a symbiosis. The host cell provided protection and nutrients, and the bacterium provided a massive amount of energy. Over millions of years of evolution, this engulfed bacterium became the mitochondrion we know today, permanently integrated into the cell. This theory explains why mitochondria have their own bacteria-like DNA, their own ribosomes, and a double membrane, the inner one being the original bacterial membrane and the outer one being from the host cell that engulfed it. So the next time you take a deep breath, go for a run, or even just think a thought, spare a moment to appreciate the trillions of ancient bacteria turned organelles working tirelessly inside you. These tiny powerhouses are the reason you are alive and energized. They are the silent, efficient engines that power the incredible complexity of life. Their story is a story of cooperation, evolution, and the pure, raw energy that drives the world. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the cell's power plant. I hope you found it as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this journey into the microscopic world, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures in science. We'll see you in the next one.